Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Glad to see everybody to our September 5th meeting. We haven't had a meeting for a while, but rest assured we've been very busy working on a number of items our committee has. We're going to jump around this agenda. We have quorum for the record. I have counted. We're in good shape there. We have some folks that want to make a presentation, but first I want our treasurer to present to us our proposed budget for the fiscal year 2019, and then subsequent approval of the MOU with the Downtown Lexington Partnership. I appointed a committee of folks to look at the budget issue. We've met three times since we last met. Myself, Steve Grossman, Kevin Atkins, Scott, and Liza. We've met and gone over in detail this budget. We have literally discussed and cussed every item on it, I assure you. So it's not to say we want your input, we do, but we have looked at it and we voted and we unanimously approved recommending it to you all today. Having said all that, it's on the table for discussion, so don't hesitate. Steve, you want to present that?
Yeah, I'm going to go over a number of points here about the budget that you've received for 2019. So we're going to have kind of a broad overview of the budget. But before developing the budget committee looked at our current balances and future revenue streams. So two important things to remember. First, there's a beginning bank balance of more than $250,000. If we invest everything for year 2019 budget, we will have a year-end balance of $201,000, which is really quite a bit more than what we need to have in any types of reserves and gives us a pretty good cushion should other items arise. Second, the DLMD levy is expected to increase 34% to approximately $570,000 by 2020 due to the city center and Field and Main properties coming online. So we're in a very good financial position currently and going forward. There's key problematic priorities. The budget committee considered what our priorities should be in 2019 in order for us to develop the budget. Key DLMD priorities developed by the DLMD Budget Committee include provide more safety resources to address worker, visitor, and resident safety, grow the ambassador program and provide more equipment to make a substantial visible impact, create public art project opportunities, significantly improve the DLMD awareness of what the organization does and it's important to downtown through partnerships with DLP, create economic development programs to support support property owners, businesses, and market downtown to developers and business prospects, and to allocate resources to the renewal process and to special projects as might be identified during the year. A review of the budget. If you turn to the budget documents, we can review this. You will see that there are three columns and try to align the categories so you can see what we spent in prior budget cycles. Looking at the column to your furthest right is the 2019 budget. That's what we're going to review. Special projects. There'll be $36,500 allocated for renewal expense and art or other special projects. For safety, $153,000 to fund block by block ambassadors and to add 1,300 hours of an off-duty police bike walking patrol. Cleanliness, $188,200 to fund the block by block ambassadors with addition to a seasonal ambassador and a mule to help the special projects and power washing. Marketing and communications, $10,500 to fund a joint annual meeting and annual report and maintain our website. Economic development, $22,500 to property improvement grant program and the development of the recruitment materials and joint state of downtown. This is really pretty interesting because this was rolled out. How many people have you called into?
Yeah, since we issued a news release, we've received up to 20 inquiries about the property improvement grant program. Now, we say that not all of them are eligible for either because of their geography or their proposed improvements, but it just shows that there's a great deal of interest in that program. And it's a joint program, by the way, that both the DLMD and DLP put dollars in, and we manage it for both organizations.
Management and planning, DLP district management, external audit, and some of the renewal process services. Note on the budget, summary of DLP services and payment. DLP has reduced its fees presented in the RFP submission in order to support the management of the district and created new partnerships to maximize the impact of the DLMD expenditures. The total amount of this paid to DLP in the budget is $67,500. As contained in the attached budget, the services and partnerships are listed below. A memorandum of understanding between the DLMD and DLP will be approved by the DLMD board. Marketing and Communication Services, $10,000 joint annual meeting report. Economic Development, $5,000. State of Downtown, $2,500 recruitment brochures. Management, $50,000 board, financial, and general management. So those are the highlights of the budget from a 20,000-foot viewpoint.
Thanks,
Mr.
Steve.
Chairman.
Any questions of our treasurer?
I do.
Woodward.
Philosophically, why do we want to run a surplus? As an organization, why should we be running a profit center of $250,000 a year instead of spending it in the district for improvements? Number two, the budget has 71+% in clean and safe. I think that's too high. I think that's higher than it should be. What should we be spending it on? I don't have the answers, but you know, it's not all about clean and safe. And you've heard me from day one talk about that. And by statute, this district can't be doing things that the city ought to be doing. It needs to be over and above. I have a fear that we're tapping into that. So I don't know how to measure it, but those are concerns of mine as a property owner in the management district and the constituents that I represent.
Let me say I agree with that. I think there's really no reason for us to have that kind of surplus. We've kind of whittled that down. However, we don't want to be just spending money just to spend money. It needs to be done in a very prudent fashion because we do have that fiduciary responsibility. So I agree with you 100%. And I'm sure there's going to be things that pop up during the course of the year that we'll probably utilize those funds with. As an example, the program that Terry mentioned, I mean, if a third of those come through, we'll be through that money in a heartbeat. So there are things that we can do, but I agree with that. Now, as far as the percentage of clean and safetiness relative to other management districts, Terry, you might could speak to that.
Yeah, again, the clean and safe is the backbone of most management districts. I think what you kind of have to look at to a degree is, are those, again, those services that you mentioned that are other than cleaning and safety, are they being met through the partnership that we have? And I'd say that that's true if you think about that our organization, the Downtown Lexington Partnership, its expertise and its capacity is really in marketing and membership and sponsorship and event management. And then the DDA, which is also under the DLP, is tasked with development and planning and placemaking. So that's why I always try to say, let's take a look at the silos of what we have, and if we work together to figure out how to allocate those resources across all the services that a downtown needs, that we shouldn't get caught up of, well, this organization is spending too much in this area, because we're working together to address all these things. In addition, I think, I forgot what the other thing that you're concerned
Cleanliness is about the...
the augmenting of, so I think it's important to remember that, again, when the district was created, it was required that the city do a baseline of services. Now, we're not replicating services, we're augmenting services, and that's very typical of what happens with the management district, because what you need in a downtown to be successful is a level of service here. The city provides the service here across all of its jurisdiction. We need to fill that gap. So, case in point, I believe that the off-duty police and bike patrol, walking and bike patrol, very important. We've gotten significant complaints and issues with our workers who are parking in parking lots and trying to walk to their place of employment and getting accosted. Gary's had the same issue in his parking garages. This $50,000 that we've allocated for 1,300 patrol hours will help address that. So we're meeting the needs on an ongoing basis of the stakeholders as they have voiced their concerns. And I think we have to be nimble like that. And so, again...
Let me add something also. The question also is, going back to Kevin and the folks on the council here, do your knowledge, has the city cut back on what they're doing downtown because we've had the management district in place?
Not at all. I think there's even more of a focus.
Yeah, they've added more bicycle police.
Yeah, but if you can't get from your parking space to your office without being accosted, I think that's a city issue. Is it not?
And as Jake just said, we've put more folks on bicycle patrols and that type of thing. We can't be everywhere,
Right.
but there is a more concentrated focus on, I mean, we've done a lot, for example, with the Visitors Bureau on, or Visit Lex, on the issue of getting their folks. I mean, Gary's dealt with it with our own people. We've worked with Gary getting our folks safely. So, I mean, it's been a focus.
But it's kind of like, it's a double-edged sword. The things that we're doing are attracting more people to downtown, so you have more people, so you're gonna have more, services to help, protect people from the.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion that, again, in the renewal process, this has been our thought process, and maybe we speed this up and bring it sooner. We did a best practices document, and I think that really wasn't utilized very much in our planning process, that maybe we bring in Louisville or Cincinnati or someone who can say, hey, here's what the other cities have done. This is where you're different. You may want to do it this way. And do that as part of the renewal process so that we are providing the services that are needed by the district and addressing your concerns and making sure that we're hitting the nail on the head, as opposed to saying, well, I don't think that, I don't think that. I think you have to understand why these districts, why they exist and what they do in other cities. And that I think you'll see that we're not an outlier doing something different from the other ones. I think what we have to concentrate on is what services we're doing, are we providing a significant positive impact? And I think we are working towards making sure that we're improving those things. And then are we nimble in addressing the things as they come up, whether it's more property improvement grants or more safety resources or art as this board has expressed interest in. So I think what you have the luxury maybe of is you have, I think, a well-developed budget by the committee and ample resources to add into. If you see an area that you say, hey, I'd like to bring to the board, I think we ought to spend some things on this area. But this will allow us to move forward, I think, in a strategic way now.
And I would add to Steve's point, we had a big surplus in year one. And I think that was a lack of, plan on our part at the time, moving forward. If you look at this year's budget, part of it is a large infusion from what was left from last year's budget. But the feeling I think we all had was it's nice to have money in reserve if a project came along that was sizable, or if we needed to put more into the property program, that it's nice to have some in a bank account that you can draw from if you had to, and not spend previous surpluses, but then start spending, full amounts on this.
Yeah, it was never a conscious effort to bankroll money. It just was a happenstance. We wanted to be such good stewards of this money that you all pay, and I think we have been, and we operated very lean and thin, which I think we needed to do. And so, as Kevin says, we're dipping in 53,000 of it for this one, and we'll have more to do. I mean, I'm open to an ad hoc committee, Woodford, to see how we spend this surplus. I'm crazy about Bill and Jennifer's ideas, and others we're going to hear, but I mean, I think it's a good problem to have. So if you're interested, and I know you are, I'd have no problem if you want to chair an ad hoc committee.
I don't want to this budget at all. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, but that's why we met and tried to give you all the time, because I know everybody's busy, and we took our own time to try to dig in the weeds and present this to you. But we all.
And I will support it. I'll make the motion to approve the budget. But at the same time, I caution the board that, based on my comments, that I'm not sure we're going in the right direction for a renewal. Based on the property owners that are my partners, that I've talked to, that I'm around. So, a word of caution, I'll motion.
I will second Woodford's motion and add for the record that ask the chair to put together a committee to look at the safety issue and perhaps how to better fund that in the coming budget as part of that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. You want to have any more discussion on the motion as stated? Anybody? Steve, you okay?
The only thing I want to add is Zeta and I had lunch in July with, it belongs to Dudley's, and we were talking about some things, and she said you can have all the PowerPoint presentations you want, you can talk about branding all you want, but when her little old ladies want to come to lunch and cost it, paying the fees, which is what we're talking about here, she said, we're doomed to failure. She said, we've got to get that under control. She had ladies that say, I'm never coming down to lunch anymore. I can't get out of the parking lot. I can't work for parking machines.
Right. Well, we understand. I think that's why we're responding to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the city's responding to it. I think we're all in
Me
this
too.
together. So I mean, it's a problem, that we all know. It's been here for some time. It's not going to go away. So all we can do is try to throw bodies at it and money and allocate resources, which is what we're trying to do.
That's
But
right.
I'd love to have you on that committee that Woodford's
Right.
going to chair, by the way.
And maybe, as a suggestion, maybe we ought to have a board retreat, just board members, and discuss the organization, what it wants to be, what it needs to be, what it should be. Just the board members. That's a suggestion that I have, and that could be the ad hoc committee, it's just the board,
From
to have a direction.
From at least my viewpoint, it seems like we've had this organization for a couple of years, we're just now really getting our feet on the ground and getting some direction. But I think your points are well
At the same
taken.
time, it's mission critical, if
Yeah,
we're going to
yep,
renew.
yep, you're
We
exactly.
got to start yesterday.
Yeah.
We all agree. We all agree, Woodford. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as presented for the 2019 budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Part and parcel with that is also a approval of a district management memorandum of understanding, which is in your packet with the Downtown Lexington Partnership. That's a one-page synopsis of basically our contract, if you will, with DLP with regard to also the future. There are no commitments monetarily, but there's a commitment in the future after this contract runs out. It's the last page of your packet there, memorandum of understanding. There's a commitment that we will develop the scope of services for 2020 and agree upon a compensation commensurate with those services to be provided at that time. It'll be a mutually agreed upon number, so we're not locking into anything at this point other than just the opportunity to continue our relationship with DLP. Any questions about the MOU?
Mr. Chair, just one quick point. As a member of the DLP board, and since this impacts that organization, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, so that's going to be interesting. There's a lot of DLP board members here, including myself, Steve. So I mean, what do we have left that's not a DLP board member? Our two council people, 1, 2, Gary, 3, 4. We can still vote on this then. Yeah, it's you need a majority of the whole, even counting the recusals. It's the same in Steve. Help me out here.
Process suggestion.
Yes.
If the members of the DLP would abstain rather than recuse, then we can have a vote and their votes will go with the majority.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate that. You know how help I get over here. Okay, so
I'll abstain, and I guess everybody else has to.
yeah, well, we might do a show of hands, make it for the record so everybody can tell. So, do we want any discussion about the MOU? Do we understand why we're doing it and the purpose of it? Any questions on it? The chair would entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
We have a motion by Nick.
Second.
We have a second. Second by Gary. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions, raise your hand if you would. Okay. Thank you very much. I believe that means the motion passes with the abstentions added to the majority. That's the two items that I needed our treasurer for. Thank you very much. I know you have to go, so please go. Okay, we're going to continue our journey through the agenda. I'm now going to refer to number 6 on our item, which is the City Public Art Master Plan and Percent of Art Program presentation by Jennifer and Bill. No.
All right, Thank you, Jim. Thank you all so much for having us today. My name is Jennifer Warren Mutt, and I work for CAO Sally Hamilton and Mayor Jim Gray down at the City of Lexington. And
I'm Bill Farmer. I'm the 5th District Council member, and I chair the Corridors Commission.
yes, and Bill and I have become great friends and colleagues through the Corridors Commission, the work of the Corridors Commission. So before I start, I want to give you guys a little bit of background about Percent for Art. Bill has been working on Percent for Art for over a decade, as the paper indicated today. I have a more recent history with public art. When Breeders' Cup announced it was coming to Lexington 4 years ago, the Corridors Commission decided that since our mission was to make our corridors more beautiful, we thought, what can we do on our corridors to make them more beautiful, make them cleaner, make them better, and make it a real showpiece for the visitors that were coming to Lexington. So we decided we were going to not only plant a lot of flowers and a lot of trees, which you all have seen on many of the corridors, but that we were also going to do a bit of public art. And so we put some origami-looking art over at Newtown Pike, and we also did a temporary sculpture show for Breeders' Cup that was very well received, not only by the public and our visitors, but also by the Corridors Commission and the folks on the Corridors Commission. And so that momentum continued with a public art subcommittee through Breeders' Cup or through Corridors Commission from the Breeders' Cup. And we now allocate 10% of our new project budget to art at the Corridors Commission. So there's 5 council members as well as many members of the community that serve on the Corridors Commission. And so Bill and I thought, we have a mayor who loves public art very much. We've got 5 Corridors Commission members who we know love public art, and it has been well received. So let's seize the moment before the mayor's term ends. And so we decided to bring forward, after a year and a half of working on it, the Percent for Art again after 10 years of Councilman Farmer working on it. And so we're pleased to report last Thursday it passed our council. And so we now start forward on our journey of getting more public art in Lexington. So I wanted to give you a bit of background to so you all sort of understand why we were interested in it, knowing that Mayor Gray was interested in it and a majority of the council members were interested in it as well. So I chose a picture here that's, whoops, oh well, is our Chris? I think it went out. Sorry.
Wow, that was great, though.
Yeah.
I'll just leave this one alone. We'll just.
Okay.
Sorry.
There we go. So we started with a photo here of Oliver Lewis Way Bridge Art, which was a partnership between Lex Arts, some private donors, the City of Lexington, and the Corridors Commission. And so I found this picture on Google. I thought it was neat to show you all something that was a partnership in Lexington that was public art that's been really transformative for this area of town. Nan and I joke that it looks like it's over a lake. That's just the flooded LCC parking lot, I think. But anyway, it's a pretty piece of art, and, or at least it was wet that day. So anyway, that was a partnership, and that was a piece of public art that has definitely transformed parts of Lexington. So today we're going to talk to you guys about municipal government, what public art means to municipal government, the purpose of a public art master plan, the framework we've developed, Percent for Art, our fund, the ordinance revisions we made for the Public Art Commission, which we're going to talk to you in just a little bit. And then we also added some fun examples of public art around the country and around the world to get you guys excited about what could be. So we're going to start here. Bill, I'm going to let you sort of take this one.
First of all, thank you all for your time and your talent with this group. We appreciate it very much, and certainly I know that the Perrier is always crisper at McBrayer, so in working on the background for this, which there's not a lot of times you get to a place in leadership where you know that you're going to do something and get it done, and it's going to make a difference. That's what this legislation did last Thursday night. But it sets a framework forward for us to begin to work into what is the definition for public art, because our city has been very welcoming, from the horses to the doors to the benches. I mean, any murals. It's just the opportunity to make the art a little bit different than what we've seen before, and with a proper approach to create a collection, because really we will be curating a collection. And that's one of the things we have found on Corridors. The first thing we start with each year is, what is our budget for maintenance? Because we're not going to do anything that we can't keep up year after year. That will be the case with this group too, because we'll be curating something that will be larger each year, potentially, certainly, and certainly worth more each year. So we have to think about that. The benefits, yes, we help define space and encourage creative place making, which is what certainly downtown, if not the whole Lexington's all about. The opportunity to engage a broad cross-section of citizens, which we know that happens. This activates so many parts of the population, from those who are interested in it, to those who do it, to those who make it happen. And refine and remap public space, which is something that we continue to do here. And in a time of serious infill, we need something to look at. We need something to decorate around, decorate with. This will give us that. Enhance the identity and character of our community, which we already have a very specific character, but this will help show it in ways that we can't imagine today that would be so beautiful. And then I like this one. Public art gives the city character and the identity that makes it appealing to residents and to help attract visitors. Exclamation point or asterisk here. And if you read in the paper today, it talks about the percent for art and its use in Chicago, where there's now enough great art there that art in Chicago has become a destination for folks to go to. And the placement of the public art project enhances the image of the city and its landscape and architecture, which we will see ways as we seat this group and they do their work, that when the installations are made, it will change the way we will perceive certain parts of Lexington, which is really so cool for a venerable city as ours.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, as you all hash through your budget this morning, we now have the ability to have a master plan for our public art, because we will have a brand new art board for that. But we have to sit down, inventory what we've got, which we've already done that, and then have a comprehensive approach, which I love the term comprehensive because that changes every day. I mean, the world changes so fast now. It can be comprehensive, but the ability to demonstrate what art can be and where it can go will change probably by the time they finish their work of putting together a comprehensive plan. Where do we need more art? Can we use art to activate, this is still my favorite one, activate public spaces? And then where? Roads, trails, pedestrian crossings, public buildings, parks, anywhere. And is Lexington public art accessible? I mean, for a lot of public art right now, it's drive-by art. It's art on the side of the building. And if anything, we've lost a couple statues. So the ability for us to have three-dimensional art that's not just drive-by art, but it's art that you can encounter and become part of the nature of what we do here and change it as we go along. Those are the background things behind our purpose.
So we currently have the Urban County Arts Review Board, which some of you may have brought projects to in the past, but it's a fairly small board, meets about 4 times a year, sometimes more often, to review proposals for art on LFUCG property. So if a neighborhood group has an idea for an art installation in a park or in the right-of-way, they will come to the Urban County Arts Review Board and give a presentation to us, fill out an application, and we have engineers on that board, arts professionals, so we'll decide, does this work? Is this safe? Is this work? Is it appropriate? And so that board is active, very active, and sometimes we met multiple times this summer. The Public Arts Commission is technically active now, I suppose, since we've revised the ordinance, but was created in 2002 and was inactive since then. And the major reason why it was inactive is because it required a funding source. What's the point of making a plan and trying to get art if you don't have money to acquire the art? So we've had this on the books. It sat there. It had a board that our experts told us was too large, 16 members, which we've revised down to 9, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the ultimate hope is that we will merge these and have one body that both reviews, puts together the master plan, implements the master plan, and then also approves art on public property. We probably won't see that merger for about a year because the Arts Commission is going to take at least a year to work through the public art master plan. So percent for art, that's really exactly what it sounds like. Some cities in the United States do 0.5% of their budget or their CIP budget. Some do a full percent, some 1.5%, some 2%. So we went through round and round and decided we would present to the Urban County Council 1% of our general fund CIP. So if we bond out of our general fund $30 million, then $300,000 will be allocated to public art, and that can be cash or additional bonding. And that will be presented by the mayor in their budget to the council for their deliberation and ultimate approval next spring. So one thing, I'm going to let Bill actually talk about the leveraging of other funding, because this is sort of what he feels passionate and strongly about. So I'll let you talk about that, Bill.
Well, I think when we began to really encounter public art as part of our installations for Breeders' Cup through the Corridors Commission, what we found was we had really really ready partnerships with our arts people.
LexArts.
LexArts, yes, LexArts, they're great people. And they have access to different partners than we do, that bring different money to the table than we had. So we immediately found great opportunity there to continue other work that maybe we only had a part in. So grants will be a big part of what's going to go on here, because they will be able to activate those and bring them to the commission for their consideration. Then there'll be the potential for donations of art, as well as, I guess, monetary donations too, because the layout of this is, it's 1% each year, but it could be bond funds, or it could be general funds. But you can't use bond funds for maintenance. So there'll be some years where we will have to have cash for sure to do maintenance on. So there's the opportunity for those outside either to partner on a piece of art or to be a part of the fundraising for the Arts Commission. And there's room for partnerships. That is in your name. I urge you to remember it as you go forward, because we've deprived ourselves of a certain beauty in Lexington. We pride ourselves on the green space and the four-plank fences and the horses. But we need to pride ourselves on our creativity and the beauty that we bring to each corner. And this can do that in large and small ways. But there was council folk who are very aspirational about this, who want us to have something big, something that calls a question and says, what is that? What's going on there? And this commission, with these repeating dollars, will have that. But partnerships will form that we don't even know yet, and will all work out very, very well. All right, okay, so the approved resolution. Okay, so this is the actual work that we did last Thursday night. Jen is right, we worked for a year and a half in committee, and brought it forward through the General Government Committee and got a unanimous vote out of committee to the council. Now, once we get to the council, then you've gone from 10 members to all 15 members, and now you're selling. Now you're trying to get 8 votes. And there's some folks that for whom this math does not work. And so we knew we'd lose a few votes. Then we had some people who were sick. Things just didn't work out to get, you'd love to have 15, but at the end of the day, 8 makes it work. So 8 made it work last Thursday night. 3 of those votes are right here. Thank you, gentlemen, for your help then and now. So this establishes, and going back to Jen's point about the mayor, if the mayor hadn't been for this, or more or less said, in my opinion, to Bill O'Meara, find a way to make this work. Because I did this with Mayor Miller and said, we should do this. And she was supportive. Then she sent me to Mary Helen Casey, who was her financial director.
Commissioner,
And she just told me we couldn't do it. And that ended that. We haven't found those kind of roadblocks this time. And that's what's gotten us to the goal line and across now. So this is the actual definition that Bill O'Meara became enamored with, and that his bond counsel was all right with. And it's easy for people to understand. Each year, whatever 1% of our capital improvement project money would be set aside for art, either through the facility of the borrowing for that or for the general fund for that. And then, let's see, there are certain things that we can't use things on based on the background of the money. And if we do use bond funds, we have to spend them within 3 years. There are some tricks to this trade. And in the year that the commission will spend setting up that framework, they'll also become familiar with what's going to work best where and how, because those are kind of the new thing. Yeah, 36 months to spend the bond fund. So as with any new endeavor, there'll be some bumps in the road, like your all's discussion about your budget today. There'll be some things we don't anticipate, but there'll be opportunities that will come to us too. So the biggest deal is the consistency of income here. And this is one thing that the mayor turned to me and Vice Mayor Tusu. This is really great, because we will have a consistent point of income. We'll also have a consistent point of interest and a building endeavor in Lexington.
So the Public Art Commission ordinance was revised last week as well and approved through council. This one, I believe, got all the votes of the members who were there. So we had a group of 16 people on the original commission, like I said, and our arts experts that Bill and I reached out to said that's too large. You need to bring that down to a reasonable number. And so these are the folks that will sit on the commission. And I met with Jim many weeks ago after this first came out, and he reached out, and Kevin reached out. And we'll be looking for partnerships and people to sit in as we go through the master plan. So we'll want to meet with our downtown groups, some neighborhood groups. We've met with one of our ag groups already. And so there'll be plenty of opportunity for input through the actual public art master planning process. So this just gives you a feel of who will be serving, who the mayor will appoint and the council will approve. So here's the fun stuff, and this is what I'm hoping to entice everybody with and sort of get you thinking. When you all were talking about sort of what can you do, I know Ethan's working on some public space initiatives at the DLP. Some of the fun things that we found, some of the statues, you know, are sort of the way we have originally thought about art. We have many around Lexington. But I wanted to show you all some different things that were more temporary pieces that aren't necessarily permanent art in Lexington, but could stay up for some time. On the upper right corner, this was sort of a musical and lit swing art, I guess, and folks could come, they put it in a public plaza. Folks could come and make music on the swings and watch lights come in and out, and it was very well received. It has been done in multiple locations. And so I believe that installation stayed up for a summer. Before I Die is actually an interesting, sounds a bit morbid, but it's actually pretty inspirational. A woman found this abandoned building and decided she was going to write Before I Die and let people come up to the building before it was demolished and write about things they want to do before they perish. So what are some goals you have? What are some things you want to do? This went internationally viral. Hundreds of these went up all around the world. And it's really, if you guys get a chance, you can Google it and see some of the things that people wrote. I thought it was very inspirational and very neat. This building has since been demolished, but like I said, this art has been placed all over the world. This one is really interesting. Folks can get up in there and have their picture taken with it. So I suppose it's not one size fits all, but one size fits most. So, but it's actually fairly large. So if you're tall, you can still get in there. And I thought that was neat. And so that's kind of a selfie slash put it on Instagram opportunity, which was really neat. Bill's favorite, the Lego overhang. And
Lego.
Yeah. And I wanted to put that one in because we do have a lot of opportunities in Lexington. I don't know if you all are aware, but as Southland Drive develops and gets sidewalks, they're going to be doing some art near the First Railroad overpass, to be determined, I believe, potentially a mural. But I thought it was really neat since we do have so many overpasses. I know Councilmember James Brown has come to corridors a few times about the North Broadway interchange and the overpass there and how it could potentially use some sprucing up. The bus stop is neat because that really is a bus stop, functional art. So it's a neat, again, probably a good social media picture, but also folks use it all the time to sit and wait for the bus. And if you get in the B or in the S, I guess you get a little bit of cover from weather and such. The U is for the more adventurous, I suppose. Down at the bottom, this is actually a really neat, there were two artists in Brazil that there were some underprivileged neighborhoods there that really could use some vibrancy, I suppose. And so they did some smaller installations and painted some buildings, and they were sitting in a cafe one day and got this idea, look at this place, we could make this amazing, and worked with the neighborhood and brought all this life to it. Children, there's multiple pictures online, but children love to play in the area. Obviously it's very bright and colorful and cheery, and brought quite a bit of color, as you can see, to the neighborhood. And then another one down here is just they essentially painted trees blue and made it an interesting plaza. So I don't know, Jake, if we should paint our trees blue, but that aside, it was an interesting project. I thought that really sort of livened up the space. And that one as well has been done in different interpretations around the country. So our next...
Turn the water at Triangle Park pink.
That's right. That's exactly right. So we did do some, we have experimented with this a bit in Lexington, which I'm sure lots of folks, Renee got their photos taken by that when it was turned a different color. So next steps. Bill and I have already emailed a few times about we've got to sit down with our mayor and our chief of staff and think about who's going to serve on the commission. As you all, if you've been following the news, we've had a great desire through the council to have diverse groups of membership on our commissions, reaching out to folks all around the city, people with different interests, different backgrounds to serve on our commission, and I trust this one will be no different. Once the mayor reaches out and gets our commission, gets our potential folks on the commission, the Urban County Council will approve those appointments. Then we will immediately start drafting our public arts master plan, and I will assist with that as well as our folks at Lex Arts, Nan and Nathan, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And we've talked to Commissioner O'Mara with the goal that the percent for art will be included in the 2020 budget. So we'll still be working on the public arts master plan, but hopefully get some early wins in fiscal year 2020, knowing if their bond funds will get the 3 years to spend that money. So that's it, Jim. It's a lot, but.
We appreciate your time and your efforts. Do you have any questions for our guests? Anybody?
You know, Jim Clark at Ashland is doing a John Henry exhibit with 4 sculptures.
Yes.
He's out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but
Yes.
from Lexington. Has some pretty modern sculptures.
That's
and
right.
Cool things, but it's a temporary exhibit. I mean, is there any way to perhaps get 1 or more of those 4 to be permanent for Lexington?
Well,
somewhere?
we are actually, it's interesting you brought that up. Our last Corridors Commission meeting, we had both Ethan come with a potential project for down on, can I say the location? Sure. Short Street. And we also had Mr. Clark come and give a presentation on us being a sponsor for both the Henry pieces and then a Kipto Taurus piece of the big stump that is remaining on the front corner.
And Sycamore. Yeah.
Yes, and so we are doing all 3 of those projects, and we are a partner, the Corridors Commission, and essentially the LFUCG in the Henry piece. But in terms of permanency, I'm not sure.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah, I've heard.
The ones that we're going to be privileged to have at the estate will be on loan for a year. Their ones are currently not in installation, but do have a promised place to go, according to Jim and the sculptor. But I think that they will be such a flight of fancy for folks. You'll see interest in them going forward, especially once our framework is up and running. But we did a little sponsorship up there to help them get the one that will be near the corner of Woods Point and Richmond Road. But the wooden sculpture that's up there now is just a precursor to what will come. And he's really helping reinterpret the estate, and a huge turnout for the jazz concert the other night based on all these great things. But there's room to work in that direction, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
Bill and Jen, as you move forward, you talked about partnerships. How do potential partners stay engaged so that those partnerships can develop moving forward?
It's a really great question. We're sitting here just kind of talking about it because we had some emails back and forth because some of these policies or some of these opportunities haven't been worked out yet. We want to make sure we have partners that help broaden the base, as it were, but at the same time, you don't want them to control all the outcomes. So we're going to have to kind of work through that a little bit because this is a whole different kind of framework than we, as a city, ever really attempted before. So I don't have a no answer today. I just have a maybe and yes answer because we just don't really know yet. But we want to make sure that all parts of the art community represent all parts of the community, and that sponsorships don't overshadow that, but add to it, would be the answer I give you today.
And I think, Kevin, if people reach out to you or any of the members of the board with ideas, please make sure the commission meets with this group as you work through the public art master plan. If you'd like to email those to me, Kevin has my information, Jim has my information, that would be great. And I can sort of be keeping a small database of folks that are interested and that do want Bill and I to meet with them as we move through the master planning process.
We're all very excited about it. We've increased our budget for special projects to 7.6%, and we have surplus, as you've heard. So those kind of things, and within our boundaries, I know you recognize we're confined to certain geographical space, but having said that, I think everybody in this room is very supportive and look forward to working with you all.
Thank you also
Absolutely.
very
You're
much.
first on the Christmas card list.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, Terry, shall we get back to the agenda? All right, we're going to now go to the consent agenda portion. We have items number 3 and 4 for a consent for a motion to approve the resolutions for approving the minutes from the June 6th meeting, believe it or not, and a special budget meeting we had on June 13th, as well as a motion to approve the financials. We have any discussion, or I'll try to entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion, we have a second. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Okay, public forum. Anyone who would like to make a presentation, apparently you have 3 minutes to do so. So Anybody like to say anything? I think the chair would probably allow more than 3 if y'all want to talk. Anybody? We good? All right, very good. Terry, you want to talk about our idea about bi-monthly? I think that's our next item.
Me?
Yeah, you may speak now, yes.
In the budget committee, I guess, there was reference that once we get a budget approved, that there may not be the need to meet quite as frequently. And so members of that committee suggested that maybe we meet bi-monthly.
We'd all kind of talked about that, Woodford. I don't know.
Motion.
Motion by Woodford. I suspect he likes it. Do we have a second? Second by Nick. All right, fantastic. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I hear nothing. All right, so we'll start that with, what's our next, whatever it is,
So
September?
that'd be November.
November. So we'll shoot for a November meeting, or to mark your calendars, first Wednesday in November.
And I
Right.
might,
Yes.
and then I might make just a quick comment on that now that I've collected my thoughts. That as what we talked about is if there is additional work that needs to be done, because as Woodford mentioned, we have a renewal coming up. In addition, I think that for our planning processes, I think we need to start that in like an April time period or March time period in order to meet government timelines. And so it might be that we have working committees that are meeting at other times so that we can keep the ball moving forward and not miss a beat, but are cognizant kind of everyone's time. So this is maybe a more efficient way to do it. That's as far as we got in that discussion. We didn't come up with, okay, we need this, this, and this as a committee, but just that thought process that if we're not meeting monthly, we might have small groups of folks who are kind of keeping the ball moving.
You know, with that said, I mean, Woodford, I mean, what do you think about trying to do a 1/2 day board retreat to talk about many issues, including what you just talked about? What do you think about doing? Could we get everybody, or the majority of us, together for a half a day?
Or even 2 hours.
Okay.
You might do that even for the November meeting. Just
Yeah. We'll send
Now,
out.
would that be a public meeting?
No, I think, well, I don't know. That's a good question. Do we have to?
Yeah, you have to post
I
it.
guess if we all have to be a public meeting, we couldn't just get to, so a board retreat technically is considered a public meeting?
Well, I just think philosophically, I don't know that we know as an organization what we're doing, what we want to be yet. I think we're getting there, but I think we still have some issues to talk through, especially in regards to the property owners in the district, which there aren't many represented here on this board. The true owners writing a check. There are a few,
Right.
but not many.
a quick update that we haven't really addressed, I was going to try to address at the next meeting, is that there are open board positions. So as we move to fill those, you might have that in mind of, are we meeting the requirements of the ordinance, but also are there property owners that should be on here as opposed to, I think your point is representatives.
Well, first of all, there are terms that have expired, but there are no open seats. I mean, we need to be clear. The ordinance clearly states that members serve until their replacement is named. I want to be careful in terminology. But the ordinance lays out very clearly, as was worked through with DLC previously, when the effort to get this going was done, and there are very clear appointment categories, and where those categories, property owners, resident, those type of things. So we take those seriously and go by them very clearly.
I'm just going to say that the meeting would have to be public, but the council has had retreats, and they make it clear that it's a retreat for council members. We've never had any public show up. So somebody could come, but you kind of fashion it as a retreat for board members, and you have to notice it, but I don't think there's any problem with that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Steve. Maybe we could send out a survey to get your all's collective calendars and do the best we can, because I do think I think Woodford makes some great points here. We really do need for when we grow up. I think we have individual thoughts, but I'm not sure how collective they are. So yeah, that's a great idea.
And if we need to, to your point, I mean, we talked about Woodford and the safety issue earlier. Terry mentioned, I think it was Terry, the need to really start focusing on recertifying the district. Do we need to have a group? And I think, people like Beverly bring a wealth of information from having done that previously. I think as part of that, if you think there's certain groups we need to start thinking about, it'd be nice to go ahead and talk through those at that meeting as well.
There's a number of items we can put on this agenda. Hopefully 2 hours will be enough, but at least we'll get us together and start talking about it. Yeah, that's a great idea, Kevin. Okay, I guess you want to do your report now?
Yeah, mine's going to be brief. So I think we talked about the property improvement grants. The first grant has moved through approval process with the courthouse overlay district, and that's the Bluegrass Tavern, which is going to be a significant facade renovation and a real good addition to the group of bars that adjoining the pavilion. And then the branding update. We are continuing to move forward. Our goal is that sometime late November we would have a launch on the website and the branding. September 26th we'll be having some engagement processes with the advisory board, the steering committee. We're organizing the merchants in the downtown area, starting with the kind of people around the Short Street area. So we'll kind of be engaging them in some of the updates, and then we'll have a general meet and greet, and we'll make sure that the board is invited to those things, so that if you want to see an update of what's coming down the line, you'll be included in that. And that's it on my part.
Okay. David?
Just going to speak briefly on a couple of points. Speak about what we're doing to increase visibility for us downtown. I'm having some more service cards made, and we're going to start doing more of business contacts where we can canvass the whole downtown and talk to everyone in all the different businesses. Also, a lot of times, some of the things that we get done, we might do them early in the morning, so a lot of times people don't see them being done. I'm also having some cards that can hang on the doors to let people know what time we came by and what we did, whether it be to pressure wash or clean up something or graffiti removed from their building or whatever, so I'm having that done. And I also wanted to touch on, as far as the safety aspect of things, what we're doing, we've hired 3 people as of so far that are working in the parking lots that are on, on Short Street, the surface lots, and they're also watching the garage across the street. Right now, we're only covering the business hours. Someone is there from 7 in the morning to 6 in the evening. I'm hoping to hire someone else soon to work from 6 to 10. Now, those are second chance employees. I've had over 30 people apply for the positions. 19 might have shown up. No, 19 didn't show up. Then we had a few that was no call, no show after the time for the second interview. But right now I still have 3 people that I have to talk to today. 2 I'm waiting on background. So I'm hoping to put some more out at the different lots also.
Good. I've seen them in the morning on the way in across from the visitors.
Right.
The old courthouse.
Are these all privately owned parking lots, or?
This SP Plus lots. And then the one that's not coming from the district, it's coming from our second chance grant with the city that's paying for them.
Yeah, they are. They're all
Yeah.
private lots. Anything else with David?
What do the guys on the bikes do? I'm kind of curious about that.
They're also patrolling. They're just daily riding and answering questions, visiting if people needing the information. They're also watching around different lots that are further out and just checking everywhere. And they're reporting to the police anything that they might see that the police need to know about.
Right. I saw one day out of the district riding around.
You did?
Yeah.
I hear you calling me.
That's actually. up behind Main and Rose, like 3 or 4 blocks behind that. Main Rose. Old Lexington. But just FYI, be careful on that. Yeah, I mean, they need to stay within the district.
Main roads. I'm trying.
That's where Dunkin' Donuts used to be, you know, that.
Right.
That's where you live.
Yeah.
Short streets behind it. It was several blocks behind, north of there.
Oh, going up
I saw a
there.
guy riding back
Sure,
into town, but
that way.
didn't know what he was doing up there. But it was clearly out of the boundary line.
Thomas, you're in charge of that. We'll put you. You shed back there.
I'll get a good purple shirt.
Yeah. Well, David, make sure they do understand the boundaries. I'm sure they do, but I think Whitford makes a great point, so that's good. Everything.
Just the optics of it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, sure.
Perception is everything.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you do seem more visible. I see more people, more bodies on the street, whether bicycle or walking. It seems to help, deter, you know. That's what we're trying to do. Anybody other questions or comments? Sidewalks seem good. I've been walking a lot because of the weather, but it seems like you guys are on top of it. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the special events. Laura, you want to talk?
Yes, so you have a sheet after your packet that has just kind of a special event update for September, October. We have 6 Central Bank Thursday Night Lives left in the season, and then underneath that, a lot of really big festivals that you'll see downtown again in September, October. Roots and Heritage this weekend, the Japan Festival, the next Wednesday, the Jefferson Street Soiree, end of the month, Festival Latino, and then on into October, the Bourbon Chase Finish Line, and then of course Thriller, which I think auditions are coming up soon if you guys want to be the Michael or the, I think her name is, just saying, you all would be awesome at it. They do involve a lot of street closures and that kind of thing, so if that is of impact to you, check out their websites, or let us know and we can get that information for you, but usually that kind of information pops up somewhat last minute. So if you ever have any questions about events, programming, anything going on downtown, please let us know. We really try and stay on top of not only what we do at DLP, but kind of everything that's going on. One thing I failed to put on here is our ongoing programming in Triangle Park. We're doing some Wednesday, and it really is cute. If you see it in writing, it's WIN''SDAY, win, like win the day. Lunchtime programming, we've got live music, fun games that we bought, giant chess and everything. And we're just encouraging people to come down to the space. The fountains are back on. If you haven't been around lately, the fountains are back on. So that's just some stuff we're doing. And then ongoing, Triangle Park, gonna have that cafe open any minute now. So we've been told. So we're really excited once that kind of all clicks together. And of course the ice rink is right behind it. So there you go.
Why don't you tell the board about the cafe at Triangle Park? I don't know that everybody in the room knows about that.
The tenant or just in general?
But in general and the tenant.
Sure. So, so you guys may know that there is a cafe kind of in the back corner of Triangle Park, and the Triangle Park Foundation built it, put it in there. It was Deshays when it opened, and then a barbecue restaurant for a few years. It has sat empty for about a year, and Kyle, I cannot say, has done enough outstanding work getting everything back in. It basically looks like a brand new, I mean, we've had everyone from deep cleaners to all kinds of stuff. I can tell you more if you really want to know. So it looks like a brand new spot. And we've been working for about 3.5, 4 months after an RFP process to get the Lexington Legends in the cafe. It might come today, it might come tomorrow. The lease is ready to go. So we'll have the Legends in the space. They're kind of tweaking a concept, but they'll be open every day. They'll have beer and wine, alcohol, that kind of thing, to really make the space a place that you want to go and enjoy. The Lexington Center will provide, continue to provide cleanliness and the tables, get them all straightened, umbrellas, that kind of thing. So it's going to be a really nice spot. The Legends also, of course, have the opportunity to do things like bring their team down for doing autograph signings and bring children's activities down. So we think it's a really great partnership. It has not been announced yet, so stay kind of on the level, but it's coming. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's on TV. That's
But,
it.
you know, we'll make a big deal of it. So we still have to get a contract signed this week, but then we want to develop a really strong communications plan and an opening. But unfortunately, you know, it's a little bit at the end of the outdoor season, but we think that we can still kind of do some exciting things throughout the year, but that we want to really have a big opening for it and kind of generate some buzz.
And I think that's a great example of a public-private partnership, Triangle Foundation, you know, the Lexington Center, you know, private,
And the
DLP, and you know, the Legends, Andy Shea, you know, all working together cooperatively. I mean, I think that's good for downtown.
Yeah, you know, it's one of our, right now, you know, when Town Branch Commons comes online, or a park, that'll be very exciting. But right now, it's one of the premier green gathering spaces in the heart of our city. So we felt it was really important that we bring additional programming and food and beverage service there so that people of all ages can come and enjoy the park and have reason to go there. So.
Will there be fireworks this year for the festival at Keno? People keep asking me. It wasn't last year.
I think they stopped doing those a few years ago because they used to do them off the garage, and then
Right.
Gary, you changed
We have
the
a-
surface.
Yeah, we have a
We're
member.
gonna do them off the Blue Building again.
Too soon, Woodford. Too soon. Kidding. So yeah, I think they haven't done that in a couple of years.
Okay, anything else on special events? Any parking conversations, anybody?
I'll
Good?
just throw a couple things real quick. We have expanded, I've talked to you all about our online reservations. It's a company called Spot Hero that we use, and we were just doing it for events, and now we've expanded it to 24/7. And 3 of our 4 garages are still trying to work some technicalities out in one of them. But you can actually do a reservation anytime, and then when you put it on your phone, you show up to our gate, stick it at the gate opens from the thing you bought online. It's really, really cool. So we're still working some little technical glitches out in the Helix garage, but after that, all of our garages, pretty much 24/7, you can go online and reserve you a spot and show up and the gate will work.
Time for basketball.
Right,
season.
and basketball, just a note, this isn't really anything that I would consider negative, but just keep in mind that during games at Rupp this year, there'll be less on-site parking, and so parking will get dispersed a little bit further out, so your favorite parking spot for a UK game might be a little bit tighter to get, or you might want to get there a little bit earlier if they have good turnout. You know, last season was kind of they averaged about 3,000 less at games, so that kind of impacted parking in a negative way around the area. But anyway, though, I'm meeting with UK Athletics later today. It's just something that we're all talking about, where they're going to have to displace a number of parkers because of the work, which is exciting. It's all good stuff. It just creates a little challenges. So that's all for me.
Super.
Do they know when the work is gonna start on the convention center and everything? Does anyone know that?
I think staging and laydown is starting pretty soon. Yeah, it's any day.
Before we adjourn, anything else? We have 2 guests, Renee and Kate. Ladies, thank you all for being here. Anything you'd like to share while you're here? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Anything else, anybody? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second, please. All in favor, please say aye. Thank you.